MIDDLEKAUFF!
Jimmy!
Hightower?
Hightower!
We are live on this Thursday night. Welcome to everybody who has jumped on in the evening here after the Niners-Titans game ended. For those of you listening on the podcast, great to have you as well.
Hightower!
I really thought that last play was going to work at the end of the game for the Niners, John. I thought that was it.
Actually, they got some athletes good in open space. I would have tried to get it, had Trent been like lead blocker, then thrown him the ball.
If only they could have got the ball to A.J. Brown on that last play, Niners would have had a shot, I think.
Someone DM'd me over the last couple of weeks asking me why more coaches don't study rugby for that play. And I'm like, well, my college roommates played rugby, and I went to a few games. Pretty sure their field's a little wider. You do run out of real estate to go wide in football to run the rugby pitch play, right? You ever been to a rugby field? They just unlimited grass. They're like the outfield. The football field ends. There's these two white lines. You run out of real estate, right? It's why even when it kind of works, like the Niners, you do have to stop and go back the other way.
I guess you're right. And at a certain point, like you need somebody, if you're going to throw it backwards like they did, you need somebody behind the guy, behind the guy, behind the guy. Yeah. And the next thing you know, you're behind where you started.
I know.
It's
a hard play. It's a hard play.
You asked me the other day on the show, what was the worst Niner loss? Was it the Seahawks game or the Cardinal game, the Colt McCoy Cardinal game, or the first Seahawks game? No, the second Seahawks game or the first Seahawks game? Second Seahawks game.
The second one was pretty crazy. First one was crazy.
The first one was like this. The first one,
I think 7.5, right?
But the first one was 7-0. Jimmy throws a pick on the second possession. Robbie Golden misses a field goal on the third possession. The Seahawks start the game with 5 straight punts, but they get to DK. They score a touchdown before halftime, and the Niners were in control. Air quotes, in control. But in control does you no good if you don't, the last part of it, which is score the touchdown. And for all the in control, the Niners lost the football game. So,
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. You filthy animals. And a Happy New Year. Niners are now 8-7, 6th spot in the NFC to start off week 15 of the week 15?
Week 15.
Week 15 of the NFL season.
No, week 16, 17, 18. Week 16, because there's always one more week than the games, 16. Right?
Minnesota 7-7, Philly 7-7, Nolans is 7-7. So that's the state of things. Before we jump into it, John, let's tell it. Actually, we've already jumped into it, and part of jumping into it is our fabulous, fantastic sponsor, Tito's Handmade Vodka. If you want to pour yourself one tonight, I already broke out the ginger beer. I highly recommend a Tito's Mary Mule. It's the #1 vodka in America, and may you enjoy it responsibly this weekend. Get out before stores close Friday morning. If you're out of Tito's, get some Tito's.
You know what I'm going to make this week, guy? Or
what?
Weekend, starting tomorrow? I'm going to make White Russians with eggnog. It's Kahlua, Tito's, and a little eggnog. That's going to be my cocktail. Instead of dessert, that's going to be my after-dinner cocktail.
That's a great idea.
The Big Lebowski, but with eggnog.
Are you on the Big Lebowski now?
No, I mean, I've seen it before, and I was looking up White Russians because I remember watching it, and all the guy drank was White Russians. They looked so good, and then I tried to make them, and mine weren't as good, but they're still pretty tasty. And then I saw eggnog, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but festive. I feel the season, so I think I'm gonna make them. I watched a bunch of YouTubes last night on how to make them.
Because there you go. Tito's, John, handmade vodka, America's original craft vodka, #1 vodka in America. A lot of companies, vodka, they spend their money on their labels. They spend their money on their marketing. They spend their money on their celebrity endorsers. Not Tito's. They get schlub endorsers like us. Just so you know, they're not spending all their money on celebrity endorsers because we're here for the quality, John.
You know how Jerry West is the logo? Kyle's logo in 2021 could just be this.
Bottle?
That'd be his logo. With Jimmy in the back.
Yeah, John Daly on the plane. In 95, Tito Beverage started up his own distillery, John. A man, a dream, and 19 maxed out credit cards. He had the first legal distillery in the state of Texas. He started pouring for free at fundraisers. The next thing you know, he's winning awards left and right. He's not even showing up to these award banquets, whatever, these contests. He's winning them. And here we are, another holiday season with Tito's, the number one drink in the house. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. Go get it, Tito's.
Go get it, Tito's.
Let's mention also real quick before we dive into things, nokidhungry.org/ham. Our latest update, I had it in front of me a second ago. We are over $22,000 at nokidhungry.org/ham. Why don't you tell the people about it as I look for the...
just go to nokidhungry.org/ham. Anything you donate is tax deductible. Our goal is $25,000. A little short right now. We've got to keep chopping wood. Obviously, you guys are probably going to be with your families the next couple days. If you're given money by your parents, by your grandparents, use some of that to give, because we gave. A lot of you guys have given. Appreciate that. nokidhungry.org/ham. Let's influence some lives, guy. I mean, you and I have, but those of you that are listening, let's help us out and influence and help people eat.
Yeah, 1 in 6 kids in danger of hunger. Not acceptable any time of year, particularly the holiday season. No Kid Hungry nationally and within the state of California. Millions of dollars and billions of meals, $12.5 million in grants, helping communities and families and kids that have trouble finding their next meal. So right now we have raised $22,340 with the help of you, with the help of Tito's, with the help of Puesto. It's fantastic. Thank you. And with the help of Enzo, which they make phenomenal olive oil, so go check them out. You hot? You taking off your top?
I'm hot.
All right, that's the cue to... Oh, and your Manscaped tee. All right. Well, looking at the comments, John, I think a lot of people are on the same page. This game, first and foremost, I said it on Tuesday. I said 2 things that I really wanted to stick with people Tuesday, at least my takes on the game, were 1, there's no way... this first take was off of something that you said, so you get credit for this one. 1, there's no way to lose this game and have it not look bad. And they lost and looked bad. And the other thing I said was, and this was straight out of the CBS Sports, 7 people on the pregame show, everyone has 8 seconds to give their key to the game playbook. The only way you lose the game is if you turn the ball over. That's it. You cannot get beat by this Titans team if you turn the ball over, or if you don't throw the ball over. And they turned the ball. Jimmy Garoppolo was bad. Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo was bad.
Sometimes you talk about turnovers as a team. This one is like Jimmy Garoppolo takes all of the responsibility for these 2 turnovers, because it wasn't just 2-0. And you've talked to a million coaches. Anyone watching or listening to this have, if you're a football fan, have seen enough press conferences. You could play high school football. They hammer this home. Obviously, in college, in the pros, turnover margin. Niners lost that 2-0, which anytime you lose the turnover margin 2-0, or just, it could be 4-2, whatever, 3-1, the huge advantage is in the other team. But when the 2 turnovers come, first and foremost, 1, we killed a baby, right? Because they are, Kyle Shanahan said, I think he talked on Tuesday, and Lombardi and Mayoko asked him about sleep. Kyle said he hadn't been home all week. I think it's fair to say Vrabel might not have either. You notice they did look pretty sleepy. Tired. Kyle Shanahan probably had 10 hours of sleep all week under his desk, 10 Adderalls, 15 cups of coffee, and not much food. I will give him credit, because I know this, as a guy that when I don't sleep, I don't think. Kyle came fucking ready. Kyle was dialed in that game. I mean, left, right, like that was an old school Shanahan, just, you didn't know where it was coming. It was goddamn.
Dudes were open, though.
Yeah, it's 7-0. They're driving. I'm thinking 14-0, getting an early lead, get that buffer. He throws that pick to, I actually went on during the draft process when I worked for the Eagles to dinner with Janoris Jenkins, who now goes by Jackrabbit. He changed his name to Jackrabbit. You got picked by a guy named Jackrabbit. And it wasn't just, it's one thing, right? Did you see the highlight of Jalen Hurts' pick the other night where hit off the guy's shoe and bounced back?
No.
So he throws the guy in the flat. It hits off his hands, hits his shoe, pops up in the air. The defender who's chasing him, it just lands in. They're freak turnovers. Not all turnovers are equal. He threw it right to Jackrabbit. I mean, hit him in the hands. And then it's Okay, pretty devastating. That ultimately didn't lead to any Titans points, but obviously at minimum that was a -3. And I think it's fair to say the way they were moving, like that was going to be 7. So I'm going to give him a -7. And then he misses Kyle down the sideline, which clearly was a schemed play because they kind of had, I forget whether it was a wide receiver or it was Kittle, but they like rubbed the two routes. Kyle did, he's good at using Kyle for different shit, right? Like he'll kind of sneak him out and Kyle will stop and then he'll take off because he's faster than a lot of fullbacks. Wide fucking open, Jimmy airmails him. Where all he would have had to, guy, isn't that the time for the Derek
I don't know, I might put
Carr?
that down as a drop in my book.
Wouldn't you put that down to the Derek Carr? Just like make him stop at minimum, just so like you don't have to overthrow him. Just make him just catch it, even if he falls down.
Yeah.
But to me, the third pick, which ultimately led to 7, and the game, they never looked back. I thought that or I guess it was a second pick, but it felt like his third turnover. That was the floodgates open. And I don't think we ever looked back. I thought the game flipped there and the momentum and the Titans, because the Niners dominated the first half, but I felt the Titans took it to them in the second half, right? Did you feel that way? I mean,
yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there were still opportunities, but they were no longer playing. They were no longer playing with control. The Titans.
Well, then at that second pick, every fan on their couch, all 500 plus watching this, and thousands that will listen to this, had to be thinking, oh my God, we have to run it the rest of the game. And you could tell early on, like, their front is, you're not just going to run it at will against the Titans. So it was like, how are they going to move the ball if they don't trust Jimmy to throw? And how could they possibly trust Jimmy to throw at that point? It threw everything off.
Yeah, I mean, well, they had no choice at a certain point. Like they then turned into a situation where they had to. And I trust Jimmy to throw in this game as much as I trust Jimmy to throw in any game. I said this for months. Nothing changes for me. Whether he throws 3 picks or no picks, the next throw, I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know if it's going to wobble over the middle and Buster Screen's going to pick it, or I don't know, it might hit a wide open George Kittle running free and he might go for 47 yards. I don't know. It doesn't change. I just know when you have to do it, that's not a good place to be. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes.
I know you were unplugged right there. So
no, I could hear you were coming out the Zoom.
So,
I could hear it.
So, I mean, like that, none of it changed. It's just a matter of, do you have to do it or do you get to do it? And when you're tied and behind, you have to do it. And when you're in front, you get to do it and you get to dictate. The other thing that killed him, well, we'll get to that other stuff later in the game.
Yeah, there was also a ball that he threw. There was also a ball that he threw that I'm looking at my notes. I'm pretty sure it came after the pick that went through a linebacker's hands.
Yeah.
And the safety was like, was leaping, would have caught it with ease. So if the linebacker doesn't, get in front of the ball, which he was rightfully in front of the ball, good position, and just has bad hands, he's a defensive player. Unless the safety just full on drops it, it was going to hit him in stride in the air. It could have been picked by 2 guys. And that was at the point where you felt like the floodgates were like, oh my God, he could throw a pick on every single route. And again, like, in fairness, not necessarily to Jimmy, but just NFL player, short week, it's intense, you're tired. Like, you could just see the defensive players in the Niners were wearing out. But there's only so many coverages you can run. It felt like Jimmy didn't even know what he was looking at.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's the same every game. I really do.
I thought he was worse. I mean,
the results were worse. There is no question. The results were worse. I just mean him. I just think some games you get it, some games you don't. I think it's largely the same. Are you dictating terms or are you not? And they were not. And it was because of him that, they called a timeout at the end of the first half because Kyle knew Tennessee gets the ball first to start the second half. So let's make something happen here. And, they made nothing happen and they packed it in. They can't get the ball down the field with one throw. Like, there's a fundamental problem, which is they can't get the ball down the field with a single throw.
They can. They just run a 5-yard slant and Debo takes it 60 yards.
Right. Now, they almost did it with the use-check play, but they cannot throw the ball over the top. Can't do it.
On the one where he got ear hold? Oh, no, on the one where he's going down the sideline.
The one who's wide open. Can't do it.
What about the screen where they got ear hold and they called the face mask? A little lucky. But.
Yeah, that was a 40-yard play.
Yeah.
I thought that was coming back. I thought that was the one where I thought there was the penalty on Travis Benjamin. Then they had the fourth and
Karma got him because Jimmy threw a pick on that use check drive.
How about the 4th and 6th throw where he missed Ayuk? Turnover on downs at the Tennessee 41-yard line. I thought upon replay, maybe Ayuk was supposed to stop. I don't know. There was a hand. Jimmy was trying to throw around a defender, but it was a 4th and 6. They didn't. Ayuk was open. They missed him.
Well, two things. First and foremost, I don't think some routes are just dictated on coverage. So, like, if they're in zone coverage, you sit. If they're not, you keep moving. A lot of it, and this is why I think the NFL is just the highest level of intellectual football. Like, these guys, these are situations that are fluid. You call a play, he's supposed to do something or not based on the coverage, right? He stopped. I think Greg Olsen was like, he stopped. He clearly saw he had a little hole. Jimmy led him. They're just not on the same page. But I go back and listen, I give Kyle a lot of credit. You don't sleep all week, road game, coming out firing. That individual situation, he's going for it on 4th and 1. I'm all for. It felt like they had multiple false starts. They first start pointing at Kittle. He doesn't get caught.
Kittle had one earlier.
Freaks. Yeah, Kittle had one earlier. But I think they thought Kittle had jumped, and then Trent didn't know what was going on. He jumped. That felt like an angry, fuck this, I'm keeping these guys on the field. Because once they went from 4th and 1 to 4th and 6, tie game, you're at like the 42-yard line. Like I think if he just would have had 5 minutes to think about that, he would have probably punted, because they punted later in the game and they pinned him. I don't know. I thought that was like an angry go for it, not a true go for it.
But that's the thing with football. You don't get 5 minutes. You don't get to cool down.
No, you get 40 seconds.
You get 8, but you don't get 40. You get like 8.
But to me, too, like 4th and 1, who knows what they would have ran? Because in fairness to Jimmy, his one highlight, early in the game, it was a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2, and they went for it. The play clearly wasn't there, and Jimmy kind of kept it alive and made it to Debo.
Yeah.
But by the time he goes for it in the 4th and 6 situation, wasn't the game kind of falling? Like, Jimmy was a wreck? Like, you're depending on a guy. I text a numbers person. They said that situation, league-wise, viewed about 15%. Well, just league average, 15%? Given what I'm seeing out of Jimmy, the way he's playing, you got to cut that thing in half. You're talking like 5-6% of converting then, right? That's a low percentage.
What was the Debo throw on the scramble a 4th and 1? Was that the play you talked about? They converted a 4th down.
Yeah, it was he had Debo where he kind of extended.
Yeah.
Remember the DB kind of fell right off of him, and Jimmy kind of slid out to the right. It was a nice play by Jimmy. It was a highlight of his night. Been a lot of lowlights.
Yeah.
It's real to me, guy. It's one thing when your picks, you could even overcome. No, you can't overcome the baby zone pick, because ultimately that's points that you.
It's minimum. We're assuming here, but it was a chip shot for Robbie Gould. It's at least 3 points. Yes,
because you end up getting the ball back when they don't score.
Where the other just one, an emotional element, right? And there's an emotional element.
Oh my God, you're kicking their ass. You go up 14-0 on the road in a Thursday night game with in the first quarter. I mean, it's why you can't get ahead of yourself, because it kind of felt like, is the route on? And Jimmy's like, no, pump the brakes. Route is not on, fellas. Hightower's like, Jimmy, I'll come with you. Let's gather up, me and you together, and we'll find a way. Mike, Vrabel, Julio, AJ, Tannehill, we'll keep you guys in it for a little bit.
That's exactly what it was. And it's why it was just like the Seattle game, the first Seattle game. Look at this here on the 4th and 6 that we're talking about. Here's the 4th down bot. There's a good Twitter page, 4th down bot. The recommendation, a medium go for it. The success, look at the success percentage on go for it. You got about a 42% chance this math says to pick it up. If you fail to get it, your win percentage is 52%. If you pick it up, there's a 72% chance you win the game. These are just some of the numbers that, may or may not make up Kyle's decision there. So I don't hate, I get it. Like, I don't hate going for it there. I do think 4th and 1, you love it. I need to probably see it a couple more times. I thought hit Ayuk in stride, he picks it up, but it probably is not a guarantee.
He'd have had to beeline vertically. Like 0 lateral steps, because the corner was breaking toward him, right? I think the corner had seen that he was sitting in the zone, so the corner starts breaking. You're right. I mean, Ayuk's pretty good though at just getting upfield.
Yeah, except for on the last play where he was hanging back
Yeah, on the rugby scrum.
on the rugby scrum. But Jimmy was, yeah, you're right. I mean, for me to say he's the same every game, I guess what I mean is when he's going well, I don't assume it will continue well. And when he's going bad, I don't assume he can't have a 9-play drive, scoring drive. But he was bad. I mean, you know what's funny? And again, I'm not, he was 26 of 35, 74% for 322, 9.2 yards per attempt. Those are not air yards. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Well, you know why that's bullshit? Because
yes, I do.
Because Debo had 9 for 159. Well, 56 of those came on a 7-yard slant, right? It might even have been less than that. And, Juszczyk picked up 26 on a screen.
Right.
Someone texted me at halftime, and I think it was 10-0, but it felt like you're only up 10-0.
Yeah.
Like 10.
Yeah.
This game felt like it should be minimum. And even the announcers kept saying, like, this thing could be 24. I thought 24 was a little bold, but like 17-0
felt right. Minimum 14 felt right.
Pretty sure I didn't write down his stats. I have to look at the text message. I'm pretty sure he's 14 of 18 at half, but my text message was what they said is this is why the stats with Jimmy is not you can't box score scout Jimmy Garoppolo. You can I can box score scout Aaron Rodgers. I can box score scout a lot of good quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo does not fall under that. And you know what? A lot of average quarterbacks don't, because if I just told you Tannehill tonight was 22 of 29 for 200 yards and a touchdown, you'd be like, kind of a whatever game. I thought he was good. He clearly outplayed Jimmy. He was in control. He didn't throw any pickable balls. He made some great plays. That one where he rolled out to his left and he got hit right in the second half. I thought Tannehill was just...
How about his first down scramble?
Fantastic. Will you agree? Like, Tannehill's box score doesn't reflect like how he played winning football tonight against a defense that was kicking his ass.
Yeah, but I mean, he was 22 of 29. I mean, he was, the yards don't reflect it, but
yeah, I mean,
he hung in there.
I don't think we give too much credit anymore, like for accuracy as much as we once did. It's more yards and touchdowns. Like if you throw a 200-yard game, like no one's really blowing you. Because Jimmy threw
no, but if you were,
yards.
but I do think if you're, no, that's true. But I will say this: if you're Tannehill, if you tell me before the game starts Tannehill's 22 of 29 for 209, I go, well, that might not be good for the 49ers.
If I'm remembering correctly, he had some balls like bounce off their chests, right?
Off whose chest?
I'm saying there were a couple Tannehill completions that were not his fault.
Oh,
the guys dropped.
Yeah, I mean, then they also they let A.J. Brown almost throw an interception, which would have been an all-timer. But anyway, that's separate.
A.J. Brown is a hose. You see that
he
throw?
looked good. Yeah, he looked good. He looked good. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought Tannehill was better than Garoppolo. Look, there are just moments where you have to make the play. Your quarterback has to make the play. And most quarterbacks in the league can't do it. There's like less than 10 of them that you can consistently count on to make the play. And we can talk about Trey. If you don't have that guy, you need to spend your time trying to find that guy. It doesn't mean you cycle every quarterback you have until you get that guy. But until you get that guy, you don't have the answer at your position unless you're playing a quarterback on a rookie contract or a cheap quarterback. Then you can get away with it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Trey kind of indirectly too. There has been some talk, and I think it's gained some steam, and a part, so I wouldn't say justified, but understandably so, because the team had been winning, and Jimmy had been playing, I would say, very productive football. And the conversation of, would you keep Jimmy Garoppolo? And every time I hear that, not even because it was before he played one of the worst games I've ever seen, I'd puke in my mouth. As a lover of the draft and a lover of capital. Under no circumstances can you give up 3 first-round picks for a guy that doesn't play for 2 seasons. That is, especially when you ain't winning much, right? That's not allowed. Like you ain't fucking Bill Belichick to do that. Now, I'm not saying they were going to do that. I never believed that, ever. Because ultimately Jimmy, I didn't quite know he still had this thing in the bag. I guess I did, but I don't know. Maybe I thought he had gotten away with it. But you never forget tonight, ever. And we had talked earlier in the week about Mayoko talking to John Lynch or whoever. He didn't name the guy. Just how well he's been doing in practice. Fred Warner last week about Trey Lance. You ultimately, I text with a buddy on a team that might win the Super Bowl this year. Now, granted, he's texting me mid-game talking shit about Jimmy, like how bad
Josh
he looks.
McDaniels?
But I said, do you think Jimmy has any trade value? He said, how much does he make next year? I'm like, I'm pretty sure his cap hit's like 24, 25 million. He said, no, 0 chance. You can't. You don't. Because a middle-of-the-road quarterback, and really, let's face it, Jimmy's closer to 20 to 25 than he is 12 to 10, right? Like when the full sample size plays out. You can't, even when you're really desperate, like the football team or whatever, can you pay Jimmy Garoppolo $25 million? Like, what's he getting on the open market? So Trey Lance, to me, the Niners are cutting him, and they're going with Trey because I think specifically tonight, especially if Trey's playing well or whatever, I don't know how if you're Kyle Shanahan, you ever forget this moment. Like part of last year in 2020 when Jimmy was injured, you don't forget the losses, but when Kyle, in the offseason having a cocktail, I was like Nick Mullins. Like it was CJ Beathard. Like those guys were never going to be my quarterback unless out of desperation. Where it's like, this was your starting quarterback. It's just, this is not, I can't do this. Now, ultimately, you traded for Trey Lance, not totally because of this, because he wasn't even around last year, but kind of because of this.
No, you traded for him because I look at Kyle Shanahan like an F1 driver who knows his car just isn't good enough. He is good enough, and he's got some pieces that are good enough. It's every time I watch the rest of the league, it's crazy to me that Deebo Samuel and George Kittle play for a team that's struggling to make the playoffs because those two guys are so much better than most of the players that you watch every Sunday, Thursday, Monday, Saturday, Tuesday, and sometimes Wednesday. They're just so good. Like those players, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle belong on a team that competes for the division. And even though they've got some good parts, the sports car driven by the quarterback, it's limited. It's limited. Kyle Shanahan knows that sometimes they can run a good practice round and, start with the third pole position. But, John, when they get to Monaco, he can't win. He can't win. He knows it. And that's why he drafted Trey Lance.
I figured out how to do it.
You remember I don't remember what season, but remember the kid who's the son of the really rich guy in F1 whose dad bought a team? And then one of the teams was going bankrupt. So then the kid was racing for that team. And at first I was like, this kid sucks. He's only racing for his dad. And then it was kind of clear, I don't think he's great, but I think he's better than the Williams team should be. Anybody that drives for Williams is just constantly trying to get out of Williams. Haas might be the same.
Ferrari, when I watched, had some down years. I don't know how they did this year, but I felt like Ferrari.
But Ferrari had the 18-year-old kid that I liked. What was that guy's name?
I don't know, but they weren't winning.
I liked him because the car's red. It was cool.
Yeah, the Niners' car is not their issue. The driver is a disaster. Now,
however you want to do the F1 analogy, the point is this. Sorry, just back to the reason Trey Lance is here is because we all know that this is in the bag. We all know, and we know that the high-end trade-off is not there. It's one thing to get the 3-interception game from Brett Favre because he can win you 7 other games on his arm. But that's not Charles Leclerc. Yeah, that guy. Doesn't he drive for Ferrari? Or he did, in 2019, which was the last season of F1 I watched. I'm a little behind here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, whenever I watched it, I was always on multiple edibles, and I wasn't really that locked in, besides Lewis and Verstappen. But their car, think of what a lot of teams, what would the Bills, who have a huge game this weekend, they can't run the ball, do for the Niners situation with some of their weapons? They really got Diggs. Now, Knox is all right, but he's not Kittle. The Niners... Would the Packers trade their skill guys for the Niners skill guys? The Packers. So it's Devontae, but you're getting Debo and Ayuk and Kittle. And Trent Williams. I guess they got Bakhtiari, but I
said skill guys, but if you want to call Trent Williams a skill guy, fine. I like that.
I just think you have to lump him in. He's like a Hall of Famer,
I'm just saying, I think the Packers would trade Devontae for Debo, Kittle, right? Devontae and Valdez-Scantling. And
did you see what Wink Martindale said today about Devontae?
No, what did he say?
Well, they said, are you going to install the same thing you did against Devontae against Jamar Chase. And he's like, well, Jamar Chase is not Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is a top 2 wide receiver, and he's definitely not number 2. So, but you're right. Like, ultimately, it depends. When you have a quarterback, like basically Aaron Rodgers, it does show you, like, you have A.J. Brown. Like, it was just A.J. Brown tonight. It was it. It was A.J. Brown versus, like, all the Niners on offense. But their problem is their guy, like Tannehill, was playing well. Jimmy couldn't get them the ball. And it was just the offense is all thrown off. Now, granted, like you saw tonight, one problem for Kyle's offense with Jimmy, because he's limited as a thrower, is I think the better opponent, and clearly the Titans, are in a different stratosphere than the Falcons. A little harder. Now, Jeff Wilson's running his ass off, but you're just not getting these huge runs. A couple of the big runs were like Deebo Samuel making plays out of his ass. I thought tonight you missed Elijah Mitchell a little bit. Now, and granted, I think Vrabel would say, you miss Elijah Mitchell. We're missing I got Julio on one leg. Derrick Henry's at home. Look at who I'm playing with. That's where it's like, that goes on the quarterback. So I'm not making any excuses because I'm just thinking about what the Titans are dealing with. They've been missing A.J. Brown. They haven't seen him in a month. Julio's been a shell of himself for 2 months. Derrick Henry's got a broken foot. And the Niners are complaining about Jeff Wilson. They have all these other guys like, Jimmy, you just need to play kind of normal. Now, on the pick, the one thing you saw in the replay, and again, I am the last to defend Jimmy, did it slip out of his hands? Because it just kind of took a... But does he have small hands? Does the ball consistently slip out of his hands? I don't know.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that the accumulation of mistakes means there's no rooms for error. So the second interception doesn't kill you if you don't have the first interception. The second one doesn't kill you if you hit the throw to use check when he's wide open, right? It's the accumulation of several plays in a game where you had room for error, it looked like, and then you gave it all away.
It crossed my mind. Now, I would have been totally for it and applauded it. I didn't think he was going to do it. When Jimmy threw the second pick and the game was unraveling, and I tweeted this, like, you got to yank him. Now, you say that in baseball or you say that in basketball. It's a little bit different in football. But, and listen, that kind of unfair to the kid. Throw him in situation. Playoff team on the road. You talked about the Bears place rocking. I mean, there are probably a lot of Niner fans there, but that place felt loud watching it on TV, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, you heard the use check early chant, and I thought, oh, it must be a heavy Niner fan. And it was, obviously, but then a bunch of things happened in favor of the Titans, and it got loud for them too. Which
could you have gone to Could you have gone to Lance after the pick?
I think
it crossed your mind.
It crossed my mind that it would cross my mind, but I would not have done it because I still think you had enough. I think Jimmy can still make you enough plays. The problem was you also were going to have to then get off the field.
I was waiting for Burkhardt to be like, let's go down to the Niners sideline, and they show a video. They show like the replay of Kyle looking at Trey and start, warm up, just cut up.
We did not get. If I were having a pre-game meeting with the broadcast team, I'd be like, all right, fellas, I would turn to the director and I go, Stan, I need more Shanahan reaction shots, please. I need Shanahan reaction replays. If you don't want to cut to him live after the fourth down miss, after a pick, I need Shanahan reactions.
So, someone linked, maybe me and you, maybe just me on Twitter, of his reaction after Jimmy fucked up the Ayuk throw, of him going like this. And
that's when he was in the background, right?
Yeah. He was... Do you think he can even talk to Jimmy Garoppolo on the flight home? He hasn't slept all week. I mean, he's just no sleep. They're kicking their ass, and they lose the game by 3 points. And Guy, I just, to me, that game is like, how do you take? Trust me, we all want to go to the playoffs. I want to talk about a playoff game. I can't pick the Niners to win a playoff game because if bad Jimmy shows, you lose. It's really that simple, you know.
You say you can't pick them to win a playoff game.
Like,
here's a question:
any quarterback they're going to play in the playoffs. Listen, Kyle can outcoach the coach. Kittle, Trent, Bosa, these guys will all belong. There is not a matchup above 6. Stafford, Kyler, Dak, Brady, Rodgers, where the other team doesn't have even little Kyler. He could, dramatic advantage, and he would be. Him and Dak have done, I guess Stafford too, but if it's Rodgers with Brady, like, I don't care if Brady's throwing to me, you, Scotty Miller, and, Mr. Vaccination Antonio Brown. Like, it's advantage Brady. Because Brady's not doing that, guy.
Yeah.
Rodgers isn't doing that. Stafford
No,
might.
But they're Rodgers and Brady. I mean, that's most quarterbacks is sometimes to me, the difference between everyday starters, great quarterbacks, average quarterbacks, it's not the thing you can do one time. It's when do you do it one time and how often do you do all of the other things? When Eli Manning hits Mario Manningham in one of the greatest throws in NFL history in the Super Bowl, like he did it at that moment in time. I think a lot of quarterbacks, if you gave them 7 years in the NFL, can make that throw once. But would they make it enough times that they're a starting quarterback who ends up in the Super Bowl and then makes that throw in the Super Bowl? No. And consistency of high-level play is what separates guys. You can get a good game from a lot of guys. A lot of guys. There are more than 30 guys in the NFL that can win you a football game once, but not that can win you 9 or 10. There's not. And so, whatever. I mean, I think we've known this whole year, even at the beginning of the year, I think you and I very early, the idea that this was a Super Bowl team.
But this goes back to the Trey thing with your Eli analogy, because Jimmy doesn't even have those freaky great plays in him, really, right?
Well, what was the game a couple weeks ago? He had that long throw to the sideline to Ayuk. Outside the numbers. It was a very good throw. It was out of character.
Between the honey hole, right? It was like between the corner and the back safety. So wasn't that a Musgrave comment?
Yeah.
Hit the honey hole?
That was a Musgrave. That was a Musgrave. Maybe it was the Bengal game, but
that's, I mean, wouldn't you say in the NFL, like the deep out between the corner and the safety is like,
it's alarming that throw is that unusual.
Yeah, but your thing of like Eli doing a crazy play, and this goes back to the Trey thing. The Niners don't have extraordinary, so they just have Jimmy can be just really solid. He can just be really solid, but that's like his ceiling is just really solid. The problem is his floor. He can mix in a little really solid, like I'm going to do with some cinnamon on my White Russian. That's what the YouTube told me to do. But he also has this floor, which is like hitting defenders in stride. I mean, in stride, where you're watching going, even balls that don't get picked. He has balls that don't get picked that look, we consume a lot of football. Everyone listening consumes a lot of football. Like, obviously, you expect, and I tweeted this, I made a joke about Zach Wilson. I said the only way the Niners lose is if Jimmy doesn't just hit basic throws like Zach Wilson can't do and turn it over. And he didn't do either. So it's like when his rudimentary basic stuff kind of falls off a cliff, which I guess that's where the great, like Rodgers, that happens once a season. Jimmy, that can happen half the games. And then if he can just avoid the picks, his team's good enough, they're going to win half those games. And then the other games, he'll be fine, and they can get to 10 or 11. The problem this year is Jimmy's, when he's a little off, sometimes it bleeds way closer to being like, oh my, is this guy playing like a bottom 5, 6 quarterback in the league right now? He's had stretches in games this season against good teams. Part of it, they just played a lot of playoff teams where it has cost him games, right? And you're right, because he had the first couple drives, he was fine before the pick, but he can just have these series that look like Zach Wilson, that look like Trevor Lawrence right now, that look like, just I can't even think of really shitty. Davis Mills actually playing pretty well. Just say really bad quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, right? And those series, it's 3 and out doesn't kill you. Like the Niners would have died for 3 and out, right? On the ball that he threw the pick. Go 3 and out. He hits the fucker in stride, and then all of a sudden it's like, are they at like the 22-yard line right now? And then the whole place erupts, and then Vrabel starts getting sweet, and then he's like, get 11 in the game, and then 11 starts plucking balls out of the air.
It's like A.J. Brown shit. Plus Julio in 11 plus Antonio Brown. Yeah. Florio apparently tweeted, in one half, the Niners went from, wow, they can get to the Super Bowl, to, and a picture of Gilligan from a very old TV show some of you may know. No one was talking about them going to the Super Bowl. What are you talking about?
Well, no, they
was somebody talking about them going to the Super Bowl?
Well, I think they were gaining a lot of momentum as like the team no one would want to fuck with in the playoffs and like watch out, the Niners are coming. I think them and the Colts are playing that game. I don't know Super Bowl, but it's like this is a team that's red hot, that's playing well. Yeah. I would say that first when it's 10-0, you got to be thinking like this team could. I got a couple texts. 11-6 is on the table.
Well, yeah, but that's different than going to the Super Bowl. This is my point on Jimmy. You can't go
because you
all
weren't
the
thinking
way.
about the bad Jimmy. You hadn't saw bad Jimmy in four games.
No. I'm saying if you had said to me after that first drive, like, well, could they go to the Super Bowl? I'd have said, no, they can't go. They can't do all of that because you can't get that many in the playoffs. It's one and done. You're out,
and every team you're playing is like the Titans, but even probably better.
and you're not getting a bye. So no, you're not going all the way with that second. By the way, I'm just talking about the quarterback with that secondary. No, I mean with transparency in mind, I'll tell you a thought that crossed my head. That's a stupid thought. I killed it, but I thought let's share it here. We're hanging out. Would you
Ask Deion Sanders to come back on 1 foot?
Would you just play Trey if you make the playoffs? Just play Trey Lance. Like we're not going all the way. Let's just get this guy a playoff game.
See, guy, I don't hate that thought at all.
Well, it might. Let's let that simmer. But that crossed my mind that night.
Well, tell me this. I got a take for you. Is it off the table to play Trey Lance against Houston and just see what you got, and then just see if you can snowball it in? Now they are.
What do you mean?
Start Trey Lance this week.
What does snowball it in mean?
Well, I'm just seeing. Then if you win,
and
right,
keep
because
him
now
playing
it's
in
like
the playoffs.
Yeah. To me, the playoffs this year right now, obviously it matters. It helps the resume. But I talk a lot of shit about coaches that like kick the field goal down 40-0. Feel a little bit like that. It's like, Kyle, you're on a long-term contract. I want you to make the playoffs. But also, like, what are we doing here? You kind of band-aiding the situation with a guy that you're going to cut. Are we opposed to starting Trey Lance next week against Houston?
It seems a little reactive to me. Again, I'm all about let's be open-minded and let's think outside the box here. I do think if you've got a shot to make the playoffs,
you have to win the Texans game. That's part of it.
Yeah. You got to win and if you got a shot to make the playoffs, you should go make the playoffs. I do believe that, just fundamentally.
I do too. I'm not acting like it's the same thing as my field goal, but like you just said, they're not winning the Super Bowl. They have no shot. And I think most teams, probably beside the Niners, let's say the Eagles get in. I bet most teams in the AFC would think they have a shot, like have a legit shot. The Niners have no shot with Jimmy Garoppolo. He is not as good as he was 2 years ago. Maybe he is the same, but they can't circumvent him, right?
Yeah.
They can't.
Yeah.
And their weaknesses, I mean, they can't cover anything. I mean, they couldn't cover. I mean, if they were an umbrella, it would have broke. You'd be soaking wet, right? I mean, they are. Even Ambry Thomas, he's kind of there, but again,
kind of a PI. Mr.
PI.
Corey says you guys really say some dumb shit. Y'all know damn well Kyle isn't playing Trey Lance next week or any other week this season.
No, I'm not. Again, I'm not acting what we know what Kyle's not going to do. I'm just saying, like, is it a legitimate discussion? Fuck yeah, it should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a discussion because, this is just us talking about sports.
Guy, we're 3 months away, less than 3 months. I saw they put out the calendar today. Free agency starts March 14th. Jimmy Garoppolo will be relieved of it. He will be cut if they can't trade him. They will cut him. So you are playing a guy to try to make the playoffs that you will cut. No, I'm not saying, I know you do, but I'm just saying the conversation. Like, there are a lot of variables in this thing that are kind of at play. Now, ultimately, Kittle, Debo, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, they deserve, like, you can't, it's hard, right?
The other thing is, you would like to preserve the Trey hype for the season tickets in the off season, for the PSLs that are.
I think it'd be hard unless he had like a 3-pick game, right?
Yeah, you're gonna need that build up after you get bounced in the first round or miss the playoffs after like a 7-team tiebreaker puts football team in or something like that. So you can deal with that another year. At
this point, if the Niners get into a situation, let's just say they play Dallas. Assuming, they still got to win some games to get in the playoffs, and they have some tiebreakers that might not go their way. It's impossible to do because, like, the Eagles can still lose any game. The Saints could easily lose to that Saints-Miami game's pretty big, actually, now, Monday night.
Well,
who do the Vikings play this week?
What's his name is starting the game? Ian Book is starting the game for the Saints, so that's very losable for the Saints. Minnesota plays the Rams.
All these teams could lose. To me, the team that's probably not going to lose would be the Eagles, who play the Giants.
Yeah, at home.
But again, the Eagles are they truly good enough to just be lock in every win? Now the Giants are just playing pretty poorly, and their quarterback situation, Daniel Jones is a disaster, but you see he's on injured reserve, so they got to go Glennon or some random guy. It's just
what's his name from Georgia?
Oh yeah, Jake Fromm, right?
Jake Fromm. We could have Jake Fromm and Ian Book starting on the same weekend.
So the Niners might be okay, but do you think that there was 19? What did he say?
Oh, sorry. There was 19 seconds. Go ahead, read it.
I mean, I think that's fair. There were 19 seconds. I didn't want it to lead to a turnover and give them anything.
At the end of the first half.
But he does that a lot. I mean, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
If this sucked, and I saw Tim Kawakami, right? Like, what did people think they were going to make a run for the Super Bowl? And I'd say no. I mean, people were getting excited, but I think this game in a vacuum was a pretty big gut punch because it wasn't even about the Super Bowl. And when you're kicking ass, you just naturally get some crazy thoughts. But it was like, we're playing really well. We're going to cruise to like 10 wins. Can we get to 11-6 and like have a pretty good shot? To going from a Seattle type loss to now going, how can I trust like the next week? No one's going to put any stock into like Jimmy can throw 3 touchdowns and he won't, but if he did, like no one cares, right? But you have a playoff game. Let's say they lost a playoff game very similar to this. And this goes back to the Trey thing about playing him. And again, I understand they're not going to play him. But you have a playoff game. Let's say you're playing the Cowboys. And you get up a situation like that, 10-13-0, right? And then you lose a similar situation where it just feels like Jimmy fucks you with a little mix-in of Hightower in there as well. But specifically Jimmy. Throws a pick 6 to Diggs, has like a fumble 6 to Parsons. It's just a disaster in the second half and they lose. It's one of those like, we just had a gut punch like we did several times all season, and now this guy's just gone. So, I get your best players, especially I think Fred Warner's. I think the last 2 weeks, Fred's had some like, a little Bowman-ish, just flying around, crushing folks, cracking skulls. Like not quite that, right? But he was flying around. And Bosa, Tart, these guys are playing their ass off. It's just like, oh, over. and then, Guy, we're talking mid-January, right? Because their last game's the 9th. So the next week is middle of January. We are 2 months away from free agency. Just cut over. It's like,
then we start talking about their, 4th-round pick.
Well, I know how we can do it, but I'm just saying, like, if you're just like, we're just letting Jimmy take the ship down.
Yeah, I mean, I know what it would look like if you're down 13-0. Maybe
no, you're up. You're up.
Oh, you're up.
What I'm saying. What I'm saying is like it's a similar situation. Like you come, you're like, God, Kyle's got a sweet plan. Left, right, touchdown, field goal, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh my God, Jimmy pick 6 to Diggs. You know?
Yeah.
And the Cowboy Stadium's going crazy. Jerry's going crazy.
It's
we all can envision it, right? Parsons sacks Jimmy.
What percentage chance right now do you think, and we don't know, right? This is a total guess. But, like, what's the likelihood that Jimmy gives them a better chance to win? Let's just say Thursday night, that Jimmy gave them a better chance to win than Trey Lance.
Well, yeah. I mean,
what do you think? It's 80%, 90%, 70% that's likely?
Well, young guys make incremental, improvements fast, so it's hard to the Trey we saw might be a different Trey now. I think it's hard to do that. Yeah. He does give them a better chance. He just knows more football. But if he doesn't know where the ball's going, does it matter?
Once you've gotten to this point of the season, part of playing Trey Lance early in a season is like, we're going to play him for 15 games or we're going to play him for 11 games. And by the end, this is going to be worth it, right? By the time you get to the end of the year, by the time you get to a playoff game, what are you really getting out of it?
Just more
I don't know,
on the wall.
Yeah, I don't hate. Look, there is no scenario where Trey Lance comes on the field and I go, boo. I'm not doing that. But I do understand. I think it's easy to say go to Trey, and I do get why he is stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, if I was in the Trey camp, I would say that would be pretty unfair to just throw him into the third quarter of a game versus a playoff team on the road on a short week. I agree. But my point is, like, the Texans, easy landing spot into the Rams. into a playoff game. There is just a runway there if you wanted to have the conversation. I guess my ultimate point, I don't think if like, again, it's not like John Lynch and Jed are going to call Kyle for a conversation. But if the conversation was to be had, I don't think it's crazy. I think it's an understandable conversation, even if ultimately they said no, and this is no.
Which is to me what I think a defensible answer is no. We're not doing that.
They're lucky
We've gone
Christmas
this
and they have a
far.
Thursday night game. I don't think Kyle's going to be able. He wouldn't be able to look at Jimmy for at least like 4 or 5 days. Can you think about this guy? And this is, I text you the picture. I texted to another buddy too that does the SEC, that did Auburn forever, and now he obviously does UCF too in that area, of Gus Malzahn. And Gus, classic. I mean, the amount of men. What would you say the age is? Over 40, over 45 that dye their hair?
I think 45. You're probably still salting. You've probably still got both. You know what I mean?
50?
But I guess you could still do that on the. Yeah, it feels to me. I don't really know. Like 48.
So guys with full head of hair in their late 40s / early 50s, high percentage of people dye their hair. If you see a guy with very dark normal hair, I'm saying if you don't see any gray, it's not natural at like 62 to have dark hair.
Yeah.
So turns out Gus Malzahn faking us all out, and unlike Nick, who's like 70, or Coach K that you know is doing it, I always thought Gus looked good. Turns out he's completely gray. But then they show the picture of him. He just looks worn out, destroyed. This guy's coaching the SEC for like a decade. And these coaches, they lead, look at that, such fucked up lifestyles. I have nothing but admiration for their energy, love, and dedication toward the sport. And nothing says it more on a Thursday week, especially late in the season. There's not enough Adderall, coffee that could keep you focused, and somehow they do it. Kyle slept at the office. Can you imagine, guy, spending all week sleeping at the office, developing a game plan in a massive game against another playoff team, and having that happen to you as the offensive play caller / head coach?
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it happen to them before.
No, I know, but I'm just saying.
But this one felt the
specifically, short
worst.
week when you don't sleep.
And you nailed it. You nailed it. You did it.
How mad you would be.
Although Kittle did only get 3 targets. I don't know who's to blame for that.
He also had about 4 flinches. That cost.
Yeah.
I just
Shave
I'm
it.
sorry. I would keep that.
No, I'm kidding. I would keep it too. It just shave it. It's more fun to say than save it.
Does Kittle or Trent Williams, when they jump off sides, really bother you that much? Because to me, it's like,
well, that's what happened. Trent Williams jumps offside on 4th and 1. Jimmy throws a pass incomplete on 4th and 6. It's like, Jimmy, it's all his fault. It's like, well, what about the flinch on 4th and 1? But
it's like when Steph turns the ball over. What are you going to do? Bench him? You know.
Well, exactly. Like when people spent last weekend, there was a period of time on the internet where people were really upset that Tom Brady didn't get a taunting penalty for running over to the sideline of who they play.
They play the Saints. He was screaming at the assistant coach.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. We need Tom gets treated differently than Cassius Marsh. Oh no, let's stop that. Like, get out of here. Of course. So yeah, you're right. Trent, and you know, I thought Greg Olson made a great point.
Well, what about Ayuk's Wisnowski punt into the? Pretty sure that's
the Wisnowski punt was bad. No, but how about the Trent Williams, the face mask penalty after the guy Bud Dupree was offsides? So when Trent puts his arms up, Dupree's like, buy him. Of course he got a face mask, right? You shouldn't get a face mask on the guy who's offsides.
How are those not? I didn't even know that was a rule. When they're like, because Greg Olson's like, what are they talking about? I'm like, what are they talking about? It was clear. Pretty sure Jimmy did not throw the ball either. He ran. It's like, Jimmy, you got a free fucking play. Now, granted, it wouldn't have mattered. What was Trent Williams supposed to do? Let him hit Jimmy? Kyle's probably like, let him hit him. You know,
run.
What was he supposed to do, guy? You can't jump off sides and then get a penalty on the offensive player, can you?
Because they weren't even offsetting. Because
I don't think I've ever seen that before in the NFL. Have you?
Yeah, not all free plays are free.
Did you know that the offsetting penalty, if one is bigger than the other, that doesn't happen like that?
Well, it's like I think because the 15-yarders are like severe penalties, right? The face masks and the personal fouls.
Fouls.
Yeah.
PI is not guaranteed 15 yards. You're right.
But because it wasn't.
But if I hold you, that's a 10-yard penalty, and you get a PI. Are those offsetting?
Should be.
It feels like it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
Or
though
like
the
if
PI
he had
could be
held
5 yards or 50
if he had
yards.
held Dupree, those would have been offsetting, right? The offsides and the hold.
Yeah.
G on the stream says, "Can you guys talk about the real story tonight? Greg Olsen sitting on his microphone while talking to the camera."
Guy told me I was going to take a piss. I didn't hear it.
So for those of you who missed it, they turned to the camera late, crunch time, and Burkhart's like, "Greg, what a game!" And Greg's like, moving his hands, all excited. And Burkhart looks over. He's like, "I think you're sitting on your cough button." I knew immediately what had happened because it happened one time with me. I was doing a game with Steve Lavin, and he put his phone down on his cough button. And the producer was like, "Why can't I hear Steve?" I'm like, "Oh, because his phone is on the cough button." So, but Greg had sat down because what happens in the game, they're facing the field. They're like, "Are we going to put you guys on camera?" So they turn around. The field is behind him. They're just moving some stuff.
So he just kind of sat on the desk.
Yeah, he just turned around and sat down. Like that. And he was sitting on his cough button, which cuts your mic off. So yeah, that was funny. Greg Olsen's really good. We got some other things to talk about it from this game, but I think he's fantastic.
That's a good crew.
Yeah, Burkhart's awesome.
That's a good crew.
But tight ends, they know the run game, they know the pass game, they know blocking. They just were good.
Wittenfeld didn't know much.
Good point. Good point. Doesn't always work.
I think Greg is just kind of a natural slash. He did get a lot of reps. Remember when he was playing in his off weeks, he would do games. So it's like he was. I'd forgotten, but they panned to Lynch, and Greg was like, "Yeah, I took Lynch's job. Maybe I'll become a GM next." Type deal.
I didn't catch that part
because he didn't say it but he's like, John Lynch.
That was the Burkhart was on the John Lynch crew, or vice versa. Yeah.
So they've done that. That crew has just been pretty. That's got to be wouldn't you say, one of the better national crews in all of sports?
Yeah.
Burkhart Lynch, now Burkhart Olsen. It's just who complains when you watch that game? And we always complain over announcers.
All right, other things from the game. Game reactions that were not Jimmy related.
Okay.
You okay? You sound like you're ready to begin. Go ahead.
They shanked the punt. And 50 people were like, "You can't put this on Hightower." I say this all the time. We don't ever put if Robbie misses a kick or if the punter fucks up. So we're acknowledging he has nothing to do with a kicker or a punter. The first kick or the second kickoff of the game, they took it to the 45. And early in the game, luckily, the Titans offense was in shambles. But it's just
39.
Their special teams. I guess Green Bay's really bad. I'm sorry. Green Bay's so good as a team. So what, they screw up on special teams every once in a while? What
about the Wisnowski punt that Juwan Jennings caught at the 3?
But there was a play that Brandon Ayuk was supposed to catch it the 8. He moved, and then it gets down at the 2. Hightower's pretty bad. I mean, it's just consistently just always something in his unit. You want to blame him or not, his unit, shanked punt, ball pinned at the 2 on him.
Pinned at the 2. You got to say the pin.
Well, they didn't pin one, but why do their returners, Ayuk included, always feel like they feel like, has anyone told these guys what to do?
Feels like they haven't practiced a punt return all week.
Yeah, Brandon, go freelance this shit, dog. Just see what happens. Brandon's just, I like Brandon Ayuk a lot. Don't love him there. I'd like to, maybe the offseason project, let's just get a guy to do that and take him off that unit.
Yeah. Well, let's not have 4.5 guys.
But does he feel like a natural for you back there? Because for me,
feels very uncomfortable. And there was no sun in his eyes tonight.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you started with the special teams, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised that you started with the special teams. The early part of the game, when they scored, they kicked, big return, and just my mentions, just nothing but Hightower. So we were off to a good start.
It's a social movement, social media movement.
It has caught on. It has definitely caught on. I thought early in the game I used the word ravenous. Their defensive front was ravenous. There was nothing Tennessee could do up front to slow them down. They tried to run a screen early, we're gonna we're going to make them think about cutting it loose and rushing Ryan Tannehill. They threw the screen, and that thing got gobbled up in 8 seconds. I mean, 8 milliseconds. It was brutal. And then the game kind of settled down, and they were incredible. I mean, incredible on 3rd and long. I don't have the distance numbers. The 3rd down numbers were off the charts for Tennessee. They were 9 of 16. It felt like of those 9, 8 of them were on 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 11. It was wild.
Their drive where they turned the score 10-10.
Yeah.
3rd and 7, A.J. Brown. 3rd and 10, A.J. Brown. 3rd and 7, A.J. Brown. And it was just a couple of them were tightly contested. Other ones, it felt like he was kind of open. To me, he kind of went NBA player. Like, motherfucker, I'm taking this thing over. Because Julio was a non-factor, and everyone was a non-factor in the game. What was his final number? 11 for 145 and a tug? Honestly, it felt more.
11, yeah.
16 targets, 11 catches, 145.
Felt like if you told me the targets were the catches, 16, I'd believe you.
Just a man-child. Like, we had talked all week what his status was going to be. He was eligible to return, hoping still feeling some pain, may have to miss another. When it was like he's back, and you're just clearly Julio is a shell of himself right now. But A.J. Brown was healthy in return. That was fair to say. Beside Jimmy being shitty, A.J. was a huge swing difference in the game, obviously.
Yeah. I still think better Jimmy beats him, but yes, A.J. Brown was fantastic.
He's just a monster. An absolute monster. He's better than DK. It's not even a debate now.
He just does more stuff.
You know the hierarchy of the 2nd round picks right now and 3 years ago? It goes AJ, Debo, and then DK. I'm watching DK's body language looks terrible. It's just Debo's past him.
But Russell looks bad too. But I mean, still should be better than Tannehill.
God, Debo, 9 for 150. He was fantastic again.
Yeah, and 5 carries for 32 yards. So he was over 6 yards a carry. Debo,
I don't love that toss to him is going to get him killed.
Well, I like at least they ran that one kind of misdirection. He didn't get hit. Every run play, the play should be called murder something because it's a murderous run.
How about the quick screen they ran to him that looked like he was going to get -5, and he juked the corner, and then all the guys were coming, and he cuts back in, and he gets 3 yards on a play that I would say there might be a couple players in the NFL that even sniff getting back to the line of scrimmage. Half the league gets destroyed. That was a remarkable play by Deebo Samuel on the screen.
He's got this Frank Gore quality where he doesn't. I always thought Frank, a 2-yard loss would become a 1-yard gain. He just at least could get something out of nothing. And Deebo, for a non-running back, is incredible at it. I mean, just even for a running back, most running backs don't do it. You could make the case. Somebody said, "Are you sure AJ's better than Deebo?" Debo's better for the 49ers than AJ Brown would be.
They're different players. A.J. Brown is an elite player. He just on TV, he looks 6'5", 240.
Yeah, who would put up bigger numbers with Aaron Rodgers? I think A.J. Brown would.
Yeah.
But offensive, put it this way, I think a bad offensive coordinator and a good offensive coordinator could do great things with A.J. Brown. I think you need a better play caller probably to do things with Deebo. You just throw jump balls to A.J. Brown.
Yeah, man, I think A.J. Brown is a true elite outside guy. Deebo is one of the most unique players I've ever seen. I think it's very hard to compare. I don't look at Deebo like I do Devontae Adams or A.J. Brown or Justin Jefferson, even though he is a very, very productive wide receiver. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad the Niners have Deebo Samuel. I mean, he was drafted ahead of him, and he's living up to the hype this year. But one thing that stood out to me, Guy, and I learned this when I was in the NFL, is that when you drop in coverage, in zone coverage, especially your linebackers, right? Because the linebackers are usually if it's a 5 or 7 step drop, they drop 8 to 10 yards, and they just kind of stop there in the middle, and then the corners are all kind of chasing the wide receivers. And listen, Fred Warner is a smart player. They have smart players, but we used to talk about this a lot. Are you a robot? Do you just go I got 5 yards of depth and 3 yards to the left, and then I get my spot? Well, part of it is you got to be a football player. Their guys just go, stop, and then the guys just sit there in the zones. And even Fred would have to react. Part of it is there's got to be a blend of, and this is where Fred is not Bowman or Willis, of instinctual as a zone dropper to not just be killing grass. And it feels sometimes they're middle of the field defenders that are their linebackers that happen to be really athletic just stop their feet and just kill grass. And the guy, and it's just like, then there'll be a split second, they'll tackle him. But it's like, it's a hard balance of just, the coaching points of, you can't just stare at the quarterback. And there's a balance of like staring at the quarterback, working your eyes. It feels like their guys just kind of get locked in and stop. And they can just get shredded. I'm not even talking about the outside lighting up their, number 20. I'm just talking about when you give up those easy downs, their corners aren't good enough. It just puts them at too big of a disadvantage. Because that play, too, when I can hit the middle of the field, I can get the ball out of there faster than Bosa and the crew can't get there, right?
Yeah, it feels like it's a defense that emphasizes tackling over playing the football.
Yeah. Like they don't want to give up big plays, which I'm not opposed to, but there's got to be a balance of being instinctual and just sitting there at 8.5 yards of depth in the middle of the field in your spot. Because like some dude with 7 names, 15 is standing 3 yards away from you, just standing there like this. It's like, well, Fred, yeah, I get on the whiteboard.
Almost made that play.
And you've been taught, and you are perfectly exactly where they've circled it on the whiteboard where you're supposed to stand. But the guy is right there, He's standing right next to you, and you're kind of looking at him at the corner of your eye, but you're locked in on Tannehill, and then he just throws it, and then you tackle him. Then it's like, first down, keep it moving.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I'm baiting the quarterback here by everybody, and then you're just not. The guy can get the football there. Josh Norman and Ambry Thomas, this is a combination unseen before on most football teams. I mean, it is how somehow they both end up on A.J. Brown, which, of course, they do.
Well, Downing's
to the same results.
Going back and forth.
It's like, Downing, you going to move him around? It's like, what difference does it make? It doesn't make a difference. It really didn't. I mean, he did whatever he wanted no matter where he went. Somehow,
the offsides free play up in the air was an all-timer.
That was. And you just knew when the ball – didn't you know when the ball was in the air? Something bad was about to happen. Well, just that it was – yeah, just that
I knew something bad was going to happen because it was a 20 side. I was just kind of praying like, please don't be A.J. Brown. Please don't be. And then once it pans to him, I'm like, oh, my God. 20 he's there, right?
He is there. I said that the last game. He's there, but he's not. Maybe it's the weight room. He was there. The pass he broke up, I mean, it was pass interference, I thought, in the end zone.
Yeah.
Pretty textbook. Back turn, hits the arm before the ball gets there. I mean, it doesn't get.
They don't, you see the Rams-Seattle game that happened, and then they don't call it always.
Yeah, it's just, but to your point, like pass interference or not, he was there. I guess the question is, there's half the battle. I mean, Josh Norman's not there, so if we're looking for compliments, he's there. Does it turn into the next level, which is playing the football better? I don't know.
Well, I mean, big picture, this offseason, they've drafted a couple. Corner is a disaster for their team. Because how could you think that Ambry Thomas and Lenore are just going to be able to start and be solid? You're going to have to sign multiple corners in free agency, right? Is there a chance that you try to sign a big-time corner and pay some guy a lot of money? I mean, you're going to have to do something because their corner situation. I don't watch the Lions and the Jets. I mean, obviously those teams are atrocious, but of all the teams that are 8+ wins. I can't imagine if we did like a film study breakdown, the Niners wouldn't be the worst group of all the teams that's going to have a winning record, right? Of the defensive backfield.
Yep.
And the Bucs, they're down to like their 7th. The Niners, obviously they have some injuries, but Josh Norman has now started it feels like the entire season. Since like week 2, like he's been the full-time starter all season. Barrett got hurt week 1.
Well, you'd say this like the retrospective of 2022. He's their most consistent starter at cornerback. He'll play. I would imagine he'll play the most snaps at cornerback on the team. Right?
For sure, 100%.
It feels like
doesn't it feel like Josh Norman, Jimmy Ward are just on the field the whole time? Like those two DBs are they're always on the like those guys never come off. Tart's been hurt.
Yeah.
Lenore, they had to rotate. Mosley, they've had some different guys over there. Deontay Johnson. Feels like 26 and 1. And one's fine. I kind of like Tart.
You got to keep an eye this weekend on the What game is it? Bucks. The Bucks-Panthers game, John. Watch some Stephon Gilmore and see if maybe you want to.
Is that a leather Carolina Panthers hat?
It definitely is.
Where did you get that?
My dad brought me an old box this weekend. This was purchased in Incirlik, Turkey in like 1994, probably.
Were they even a team, you think, when you bought that hat?
Yeah, they were a team. Maybe it was 96. Maybe it was probably like 96, 97. So they were a new team. And a lot of leather goods can be purchased in Turkey. And I got this leather Panthers hat.
I'll tell
it
you
in a
this.
box today.
If you were, let's say, lived in Carolina, it just turned out you had just been a Carolina fan, and you had that hat, that would be something you would like wear to game, right? If you were like a season ticket holder, you would wear that hat occasionally to a game. Like that'd be a sweet relic.
Probably hot.
Is it warm?
I mean, it's leather. It feels good. Nice and soft.
You go. I'm talking like post-November.
I don't think the Panthers, I don't think Jerry Richardson got a cut of this hat. I don't think it's official, but.
Who do you think made that thing?
Pop's Leather. That's where my dad got a leather. I remember my dad got a leather coat there. So watch Stephon Gilmore. I mean, I guess the point is, who are the how do you shore that up quickly? Patrick Surtain would have been nice, but we can't live in the past.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't. You took Trey Lance. Problem is, like, corners, like tackles, like the sweetest wide receivers don't just like, oh, this year 7 all-pro wide corners on the market. That's not usually how it rolls. J.C. Jackson, the dude for the Patriots, the free agent, Guess what? Bill ain't just letting him walk. I mean, he'll either extend him or franchise him. Like, he ain't going anywhere.
You're going to have to find corners the way they've built that. I was thinking watching this game, like the way they've built that defensive line, they do deserve a lot of credit for that defensive line. The way they built it, the way they coach it, the way the whole thing, right? The way they rotate it.
Text from a scout on your theory about Ambry Thomas needs a weight room. This guy goes through Michigan, thinks they have one of the better strength coaches in the entire country.
Well, Jeff Schwartz just delivered them the
O-line group of the year.
Yeah, what's that? Is it the Morris Trophy?
But didn't he give it to them all?
Yeah, the group gets it. It's like it's a trophy just for a group. So it's not the Morris Trophy. The Joe Moore Award. That's the one. Turns out there's only one. I was texting Jeff because I saw a photo. Did you see the photo of them? The Michigan O-lineman in the weight room with the Moore Award behind them.
I saw a couple photos, but I don't know if I saw that one.
It's like the size of like an old projection screen television. It's humongous. And I was like,
the award is.
Yeah, it's like the trophy has 5 offensive linemen on it, and then it's on like a credenza.
Yeah.
Like a china cabinet. I'm like, bro, how do you? He's like, oh, it stays at your facility for a year. He said that Michigan's weight room is one of the greatest things he's ever seen. I'm just telling you, Ambry Thomas, when the moment comes for strength, ain't got it. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he did opt out, and when he was there, he might not have been a big believer in that thing. Doesn't it make sense? Like, what do you think Harbaugh, hammers home to his group? You think he's talking like days off, or you think he's hammering home the weight room? Right? I would imagine Harbaugh's strength coach, because wasn't it forever Saban's guy made like $1 million? I wouldn't be shocked if Michigan's is a top 2 or 3 paid in the country, the strength conditioning coach.
Yeah. You don't win you don't win the offensive line of the year award group if you can't build strength. I'm just something. But anyway, so this person
I'm with
you. Is this guy watching Ambry Thomas? Is he watching what I'm seeing?
Well, this guy does not like him. Doesn't think he can play.
Didn't like him before the draft.
He did not like him as a prospect.
Before the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Robbie Gould, I said it hit me today. It's like watching Brian Wilson. It's like on paper, some crew comes from out of town, like Wilson, 47 of 49 save opportunities this year. It's like, yeah, man, he must be lights out. It's like, nah. You remember we used to do interviews when we would do a local radio show with like national people? It'd always be funny because you'd bring on national people and then just ask them questions about the team that you watch every day when they cover the whole league. Like, what do you guys think of the Giants? Like, well, the one thing, you can rely on Brian Wilson. It's like, nah. But that's what it says on paper. So there's no stat that tells you where the extra point gets hit, down the middle or just through the upright. But if we had that, I'd love to see that stat because it doesn't feel like straight down the gullet
Who was the Australian dude for the A's that was a roller coaster too?
Hendricks. Oh no, not Liam.
No,
Hendricks.
before
He's
him.
Australian.
When you first got there,
Grant Balfour.
Yeah,
Grant Balfour.
But what wasn't his numbers a lot better than it actually once you lived through him?
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Yeah.
Wouldn't Jimmy fall under that category of a closer?
Yeah.
Like if his numbers this year, I heard someone say it was Michael Lombardi, who has 2 sons. I mean, coached in the league. Obviously, he worked in the league forever. And I don't know if this has been some narrative that Jimmy Garoppolo said Jimmy Garoppolo is having the best year of his career. I was like, well, I don't think he is. He threw 24 touchdowns the Super Bowl year. Now, granted, he only has 8 picks this season.
No, what did you say, 27? Well,
no,
he's got 10 picks now.
Well, he had 8. He was 18-8 coming into the game. So now he's 19-10.
Yeah.
What did he have that Super Bowl year? 27
and 13.
I feel like Jimmy was a little bit more consistent that year. Is that fair? I just don't feel like the ball was him airmailing as much. Now, granted, they were better on defense. It's probably not apples to apples.
They ran the ball better.
Do you feel like he's having a career year?
Well, you know my answer to that.
But I think statistically, the stats.
Look,
this is another thing I learned, but I learned this specifically in the draft because you could have guys be like, "Oh my God, you see this guy in the Big Ten, 13 sacks for Minnesota," and then you dive deep in. 7 of the sacks were against Holy Cross and Cal Poly. And then he got 2 more against Minnesota when they were missing their right tackle, and they had a walk-on start, and he tripped, and he was unblocked in both of them. You're like, well, 9 of his 13 sacks, he was untouched. And it's the one sport. Like, I do think if you got Billy, you got Farhan, you got, Friedman, the high-level guys, they could box score scout players in baseball, right? You give them spreadsheets, you give them information. They do not actually need to watch the game. Basketball's somewhere in the middle. I think basketball's closer to football. You cannot box score scout football. You can't do it. I mean, if you see a guy with 17 carries and 300 yards, there are specific instances. But I think quarterback and definitely defense, but quarterback, you got to watch the games. Because especially, and Steve Young has gone on this rant, Brady's gone on this rant, in 2021. It's like completion percentage, what the fuck does that mean? I heard Bill Simmons was talking about it. I might just get ESPN Plus, partly because they're going to have sweet golf coverage starting next year, but that's where the man in the mirror or whatever Brady's deal is called. What's it called?
Yeah, the man in the arena.
Have you watched any of that?
No, I want to. I don't have ESPN Plus. I had it for a golf and canceled it.
During Thanksgiving, my brother and his wife said they watched a couple of episodes. It was really good.
Really? But I got to watch that. I got to watch the Beatles show.
Well, you got to get Disney Plus. You have Disney Plus?
No.
So we might just need to splurge. Maybe it's a ham.
You want to share?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just a ham expense. We just go in on it.
Buy it. Yeah, I like that idea.
Well, everyone's talked about the thing in some of these Brady clips is like, God, you see him in the 04 game, him releasing the ball to Troy Brown and getting split in half, right? Or throwing it over the middle in 06 or 07 and Welker getting decapitated. It's kind of a different sport. I mean, it's still similar, but when you are playing like Jimmy, you're not in threat for your life. It wasn't even that long ago where they were playing on fields, and I know people, Cam Morrell, I saw him tweeting about this. Something happened on a turf field the last couple weeks in the NFL, and you told me once, and
it was the Charger game.
KO'd.
Yeah, the guy that hit his head. Because Cam said they don't put these shock pads onto the field. The NFL's cheap. Or the teams don't buy the best turf. Sorry.
So the NFL does not buy the best turf.
So he says 2 things. One, that the NFL doesn't buy the best turf. Yeah. And that they could put these shock pads onto the field. They don't do that. The teams, not the league.
So forever, the NFL always did shit like that. And on top of that, there were no rules to protect against any human, right? It was just, you watch, you don't need to go to watch 82 Ronnie Lott. You could watch 02 football, and you're like, I remember when I was in the NFL, multiple times guys got killed. Deshaun Jackson once got killed in an Atlanta Falcons game. And Austin Collie, when the Colts came and play us, Peyton Manning threw it over the middle. He got killed. Ended his career. He died. I mean, they had to bring the ambulance. He legitimately was the hardest hit I've ever seen in person.
What was the one hit? Was it
9 years ago?
Was it Mohamed Massaquoi? Didn't James Harrison cut him in half?
Well, I think there was another one down the sideline with the Bronco guy. There was a Massaquoi with James Harrison.
Well, that was the one over the middle, right?
Killed him. That was not that long ago, you know? And so the sport, you don't even have to worry about that anymore. So, like, what could Jimmy, I'm not trying to just totally shit on Jimmy. Could he have played in, like, 04? Would have been really hard.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying because he would have hurt
players?
I'm
not saying, like, he would have been in the NFL, but, like, could he have been a decade-long starting quarterback? He's just not accurate.
Well, he's not now. So let me prove a point on the career year thing. Is Justin Herbert having a career year?
Well, I mean, it's his second year in the league.
That's right. This is Jimmy Garoppolo's second year as a full starter. So is he having a career year? Is it possible? He's had 1 year as a John. Again, because we talk about this ad nauseum and then we just forget about it. The most starts he had before this year, other than 2019, was last year when he had 6. So sure, he's having a career year. It's true. This year is better than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the other year. It's at worst the second best year Jimmy's ever had because he's never started more than 6 games other than 2019 and this year. Sure, it's a career year.
Okay, let's just keep him in his generation. If instead of going to the greatest dynasty of all time and being behind the greatest quarterback of all time, a lot of guys in his situation, you know, you get in the second round, who knows? Like, you might go to a shitty team. You just might go to an average team. If he had just gone to an average situation, you know, a team that's Vikings would probably be a little too good. Like a Panthers or like a Cardinals, you know, some team that was just, you know, if they got like 5 things right, they could compete to win 10 games, but they were way far away. Does he last in the league this long? That's what I sometimes think about.
No, part of him being a starter.
Like, if he gets thrown into Sam Darnold's career, right? He just goes to the Jets and then goes to the Panthers. What's he look like?
No. You're right. Part of him being a starter in year 8 is that he wasn't a starter in years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Well, he's supposed to be in 5. He tore his ACL. But who knows how that would have looked, right? Was 5.
That was year 4.
18?
That was the 17 was the. Oh yeah, you're right. That was year 5. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. He's always been able to avoid some of these landmines to expose the sample size, right? And the 1 year that he stayed healthy, I mean, that Niner team might have been the best team, top to bottom, he ever played on, right? It's because the Patriot teams, they were kind of flawed. Like, Brady's teams, I think, were more complete early on in the decade. His team, remember, his best wide receiver was like Edelman. Now, the Niner team, I guess, they had to trade for Emmanuel Sanders. We have to look roster for roster, but it was an elite roster, you know, with guys playing in the peak of their powers, defensive rookie of the year. I mean, did you see the Colts? I don't want to bring this guy up because it's a sore subject, but they had the most Pro Bowlers. So the Colts tweeted out this video at practice in the bubble. They get into a circle, and Chris Ballard walks out, like, hands him the paper of their 7 Pro Bowlers. And he goes 1 through 7, right? And just starts, guy leading the league in rushing, you know, one of the best players in the league, Jonathan Taylor. This guy, he's overcome. He's had to wait, but this guy's ball, Kenny Moore. And then it's like kicker. And then he's like, this guy, road grader, Quentin Nelson. And then he goes, this guy, we preach culture here, and this guy is the heartbeat of our culture. This guy stands probably more than anyone that wears the horseshoe.
Been there 2 years.
Anyone. More than anyone. And I'm like, who's he going to say? DeForest Buckner. And I'm like, oh, my God. And you know those guys, Frank and Ballard, they get like a Belichick, Kyle Woody on the culture stuff. And just, he's excited giving it to Jonathan Taylor, Kenny, and then he just gives it to DeForest Buckner. That one, man. That's an all-timer.
I know, but again, I watch him.
But my point is that guy was on that team, like that guy. He's
Yeah.
like one of the best players for a really good team. You know, I don't know.
I don't know if any of these discussions are going to be videos cut up later on YouTube, but I'm enjoying the night.
I flipped off on my lock of the week, by the way.
You what?
The lock of the week I was pushing for. I don't know if I feel as good about it anymore.
Oh, okay. Before we get to that, though, you want to talk about the playoff picture, or do you want to eschew that conversation?
You want to just get into that next week, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, let's just for a moment, like they're not. There's no cruising here. This season feels like some of these games they play where it shouldn't be this close. Making the playoffs shouldn't be this close, and it is, which is just like this game, just like the first Seahawks game. Shouldn't be this close. It is, and unlike some teams and Niners teams in years past, where you play in these close games, you go, they'll pull it out. Once this Titan game starts turning, it's the opposite. It's like, meh. So they've played several games where it's meh, and they lose it. And I'm just supposed to, Jesus, take the wheel, believe they're just this season. Don't worry, the season's going to take care of itself, though. They're still making the playoffs. Okay, I think so, but okay, they're 8-7.
You know what I hate doing, and maybe this is a lot of the true fan in me is gone, and obviously I want the Niners. Like if I could sign up at the beginning of the year, who do you want to win the Super Bowl? I'd fucking sign up for the Niners. But do you know what is a loser thing to do? And I get people listening to this, diehard Niner fans, and it's just like I used to be, just not quite there. I hate rooting for other teams to lose. Like I just think that's like the Patriots and the Chiefs never go to like, I hope that the Chargers and the Bills lose this week. It's just a fucking loser thing to do. I hate doing it, but you kind of like that's where the Niners are. You need the Rams to beat the Vikings, and you need the Eagles aren't going to lose to the Giants. But what was the other game? And you need the Dolphins to beat the Saints. But, like, that is such loser. I hate that shit. I get it if I have no problem doing it.
It's just I want my team to succeed and I need other people to lose.
But it's like you're rooting because you just fucking shit the bed against the Titans with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, well, you're a fan. You're not your fault. You want your team to make the playoffs.
No, I know. I don't mind it if it's for seeding. If you're getting home field, I'm all for that. The 1 seed, the 2 seed, whatever. But when we're talking about like the 6 and the 7 seed, it's just
so a fan's supposed to say, I don't care who wins that game, I'm above that?
No. I'm saying I'm doing it. I want the Saints and the Vikings to lose, but let's just all acknowledge we're doing this because of the loser mentality that Jimmy Garoppolo has created.
It's not loser mentality. It's just, that's what you need to do.
That's what kind of like losers do, though, right?
Well, I heard a great.
Remember the Giants? Remember Doug Peterson last year? A little different, but still.
I heard a great quote. What are you talking about? The Eagle game?
Remember when they're freaking out about the quarterback?
Yeah, that was bad.
But the Niners are like a couple halves away from doing shit like that.
But to me, a coach saying that about another team is ridiculous. A fan just wanting their team to make the playoffs.
Well, the Giants fans were saying that shit on Twitter too. They were freaking out. I don't care.
Whatever. That's good. Whatever. I heard a great quote Wednesday night. Arizona basketball. They played at Tennessee and lost.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't get killed. They were down. They were down big early. Maybe
that's why I flipped the channel. They were like 24-8,
16-2. They were down, or 14-2. So the game, they made a big run at the end of the first half, and they made a big run in the second half. Tied the game, end up losing.
Give them credit. They went there.
Hell yeah, it doesn't hurt them at all. Like they're fine. Whatever. It's their only loss. It helps them in the long run tournament. After the game, their coach said something along the lines that Tommy Lloyd, their first-year coach, had been with Mark Few. I'm sure Mark Few used to say this. But he said basically, like, if you're complaining about fouls, you've already lost. Like, shut up. In other words, like, they got some bad calls. Like, if you're complaining about fouls, like, you've already lost. So, yeah, it's they're in a bad spot. They should not be in this spot, but maybe they should. Maybe they should. Why should
they deserve the spot. They've earned this. I always struggle because I again doing the Raiders post game, losing franchises.
Now this makes more sense to me.
Well, they bitch and moan about penalties, and listen, I'll be the first to talk shit about referees and individual penalties, but you never win or lose a game specifically on one penalty unless it's like the Rams Saints NFC Championship PI call, and that's an outlier situation. Even though I'd be the first to say I think we need robot refs. But to me, once you start like, I hope this team wins and lose, like when you just win, you just whatever. You just take care of your own shit. That's what winning teams do.
But Jimmy on his couch didn't miss Juszczyk wide open down this. I mean, sorry, Jimmy's the wrong name to use. Allen on his couch didn't miss Juszczyk down the sideline.
Allen probably could have hit him.
Allen might have. Actually, we got a long list, John. I was trying to compile a list here real quick.
Again, I'm going to actively, I want these teams to lose now because I want a playoff game. But I just want everyone to know that we should all direct that we have to do this mindset at Jimmy. It's because of Jimmy.
Well, in that spirit, John, let's rattle.
Now, luckily, like, do you think? I mean, the Saints could easily lose the Monday night game, and I'd say the Rams are 3.5 point favorite on the road. So the Niners do get a little lucky. These two matchups they could easily lose.
Yeah.
You like Ian Book at home against the Dolphins Monday night?
No. But you know what I like less? Tua against the Saints defense. That's a problem.
They're a better run defense. Yeah, I mean, they looked pretty good the other night.
I mean, they've played well against Tom Brady.
Yeah. Big night for Tua. Because I think a lot of people think he sucks, even though he's been playing well. A lot of people are going to watch that game.
Yeah. 2-on. Real quick, just through the chat, let's rattle through this. Colin, Gabbert blows the Titans out. David, Tim Rattay ain't walking through that door. Matt, JT O'Sullivan wins that game. Off the uprights, Cody Pickett wins that game. Bobby, Ken Dorsey wins that game. Juan, Mullins, he'd win that game. Dante, Sean Hill wins us that game. The Shills, Peterman wins us that game. Turd Ferguson, Gio Carmani wins us that game. Mike, Nate Sudfeld wins us that game. Dante again, Troy Smith wins us that game. Cody Pickett, I did that one. Tucker, Max Hall wins us that game. Jesse, Kaepernick throwing left-handed wins us that game. David, Jeff Garcia wins us that game. Demo, Matt Flynn wins that game. David, Steve Young wins that game today.
I was like, yeah, no shit. That was a good one.
Tito wins this game. Tito, as of Tito's, and then David Carr would have won us that game. So
you feel good about that one?
Quick rattle of the comments. All right, so we're going to the holiday weekend. What have our lock of the week is?
Well, that's what I was saying. I like the Ravens. I heard some things about the Ravens. Their entire secondary's out. Their defense is just in shambles. Lamar didn't practice as of Thursday today, even though I don't know. I'm a little nervous.
So, sorry, refresh my memory. Baltimore +3. Yeah. So I don't think we were talking offline after I pinged you the other day on this subject, and we offline this conversation. Like, here's a stat. I don't know what this means as it relates to this week. The Ravens are 9-1 in their last 10 games as an underdog. Okay. How does that help me this week? COVID week. So you're saying you like Cincinnati -3? Is that what the number is now?
No, I don't. I just pulled off a little bit on the Ravens.
Well, here's a game I like. Tell me what you think of this. Green Bay -4 against Cleveland.
In Green Bay, right?
It's not 4 anymore.
Well, they're missing some players. Miles Garrett's hurt. Do you know one thing?
I wrote that down at 4 yesterday. It's now 7.5.
One game. Shit. One game I see that, we could just play the hits a little bit. Little risky because they've been feisty, and Davis Mills played well. Just Chargers are playing well, -10 against the Texans. A little like our old school style, and just not overthink it. Or
do you trust the Chargers that much? I don't, but I might. I could be convinced.
Well, I mean, I could gladly just go pick 'em Colts against the Cardinals. Just pick them.
Did that? In what direction has that line moved? Because it did not open as a pick 'em.
It's going the Colts way. It opened, them -1.5, and it keeps going down.
Texans have like 22 players out, according to the comments.
I wouldn't do this just because I'm not going to bet against Tom Brady. They have a fucking million injuries. They signed Le'Veon Bell. Fournette's out. Godwin's out. Evans isn't going to play.
Yeah.
The Panthers are getting 10 points at home. It's their Super Bowl, but I can't bet on the Panthers.
Raiders pick them at home against the Drew Lockers.
You trust the Raiders?
No, but I do think they win that game. But Buffalo's defense, Denver's defense is good. How about New England -2.5 at home, Buffalo +2.5?
I feel like I'd take the Bills just because I feel like everyone's going to take the Patriots.
See,
even though it makes no sense.
It feels to me like everyone's going to take the Bills.
Do you not love the Colts? Don't you just want to root against Arizona?
Oh, I do. But
secretly, off of lock of the week, Haberman and Middlekoff might have taken the Browns -3 against the Raiders on Monday night.
We did not. We did not share that pick as a lock.
I could do a little money line parlay.
But my point is, we made them. I would love to do the. I love the idea of the Colts. I don't think it's a lock necessarily, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there really is. Like, would you rather take the Colts or the Chargers -10? Is 10 a lot?
10's a lot.
Terrible guy.
At home.
In Houston, but aren't the, yeah? Aren't,
Did you say they're terrible or just terrible at home?
Well, I'm just saying they're terrible.
Yeah. But they tend to. I mean, what's their record?
They've been
what are the
blown
Texans
out
against
by
the
several
spread?
teams. I don't know. You'd have to ask Call Fortenbaugh.
Feels like
gambling guys just have a feel for that shit off the top of their head. It's like, oh yeah, they're 7-17 the last 2 years. Like, where'd you pull these numbers from? They just have them.
My gut tells me like the Texans have been solid against the spread this year, but that could be that I just remember. So they got 23 guys on the COVID list, including half their defensive starters, 4/5 of their offensive line.
I'm just going to read you some losses. 33-13, 31-0, 38-22, 31-5, 31-3, 40-0, 24-9. I mean, they've been blown out a handful of times.
Chargers wins. Blew out Cincy kinda, but they would have covered this game. Denver 28-13, 41-22 Cincy. 34-6. Oh, that was a loss. 14-point win over the Raiders. Chargers playing a ton of close games. Like, with the exception of 3 games, they play in close games.
Colts had 7 Pro Bowlers. 7.
I mean, again, I don't hate the Chargers, though. It's just a lot of points on the road.
It's a lot.
Texans are terrible.
I feel
like the Texans are just feisty, though.
It'd be an old school move. It's how we started, right? If we thought the Chargers, if this was September, we would assume that, let's just say a team like the Chargers be a 12-win team, we would hammer that, right? The line would be a little lower in September, right? That line would be like 7, and we'd take them. 10's a lot.
You think Texans got a big head coming off their win over the Jags?
Well, I really want to do like a parlay. $100 one. Maybe we put the Texans in that. Or not, the Colts in that.
God, you see the Chargers money line?
-500.
If you want to take the Chargers, I'm fine honestly taking both those games.
You want to parlay them?
I do want at minimum, let's parlay them, but
which one do you feel better about?
Honestly, 10 is a stupid amount. And again, the Texans have fight. However, it is just a more old school pick. I feel like the Colts pick is a little more emotional because we want to watch the Colts beat the Cardinals.
Yeah. Okay, I'm putting it in. That's kind of risky to do it right now, huh?
It is. But, it could also get to who else could the Texans lose?
Well, I'm saying, what if Herbert?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if we wait, it could also get to 13.
Yeah, it's just going to go now.
But
I'm placing the bet.
Easton Stick could beat him. All right, place the bet. It's only Thursday. What's the worst that could happen?
Okay, I want to take the Colts. I kind of like the Lions against the Falcons. It just feels like they got. I guess Goff's on COVID. Actually, never mind.
We're putting how much on that? How much on Chargers?
500.
Okay, got it.
But it's -115, so we only win 430.
That's fine. All right, now to the parlay.
Maybe put the Ravens in the parlay.
Somebody said Eckler's about to get announced to be out. Is that?
Whatever. I don't even care.
What'd you say about the Ravens? You want to put them in the parlay?
Who do you like in the Raiders game?
Raiders.
So I went Colts. You got any games you love?
Well, the Packers game when it was at 4. I mean, do I hate the Packers at 7.5 at home? Not necessarily. Do you?
No.
Packers, Browns?
Let's do that. Where are they? That's early. Oh, that's a Saturday game, huh?
Yeah, it's the first Saturday game.
So we can parlay the Colts, Packers. I love a good underdog. You love any underdogs? I want to go with the Lions, but Goff, they're going to go start Tim Boyle. You want to go Ravens, money line?
Yeah, why not?
16-1. So here's what we need. We need the Colts to win. We need the Packers 7.5. Myles Garrett's injured. I mean, they at home, Lambeau, kill shot, nail in the coffin, and just the Ravens money line to win. $100 pays $1,600. So we need the Colts to win. We need. Oh, I also threw the Raiders in here. You want to do Raiders Broncos or no?
You don't want to, so take it out.
But I mean, I don't hate.
Who
that.
do you think is going to win that game?
I mean, the Raiders should win, shouldn't they?
I think
I did see. I saw on Roto World Zay Jones is hurt. Yank him out.
They should win the game, but there's a lot of things they should do. So yeah, take them out. I don't want to be mad at them. By how much?
I mean, it went from 16-1 to 8-1.
Yeah, put them back in. Raiders to win.
Good call.
All right.
Okay, that's it.
Okay. John Lynch's football life. There's a assigned watching this weekend. The John Lynch football life is Friday, right? The real thing I want to watch is this John Madden thing on Christmas Day. What time does that air on Fox?
I need to DVR that thing.
Same. That thing looks awesome.
Looks fantastic. You see all the people interviewed for that?
It's 90 minutes. I haven't seen what time it airs. They've been running promos all over the place. Okay, so it airs at 11 a.m. So it airs right before the Packers-Browns game on Fox. All Madden. Yeah. 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern.
I need to record that.
Patrick says, remember that ESPN segment called Jacked Up? Was that the one where they went, you got jacked up? Did they all yell it? The way they do that other segment, yeah, where they all yell?
Yeah, I think so. When a guy got fucked up.
Yeah, what's the one they do now? Like
yeah,
oh boy, or
something stupid. Yeah, it's got like a one word. Oh, cruising, or I don't know. It's just so stupid.
What is the one they do now?
Not Mossed. It's called like
there's Moss, but it's not Moss. That's not the one.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah. He's actually come on, mans are actually pretty funny. When I catch him, I'm
jacked up used to be a guy died.
It'd be what's his name? Jackson, the guy that did the thing with Berman.
Yeah, Keith Jackson and Berman.
No, not Keith. Keith Jackson was the voice of the Rose Bowl.
Oh, the linebacker Jackson.
Yeah.
Not Keith Jackson?
No, not Keith Jackson.
What the hell's his name? Denver Bronco Jackson with the Swami.
Yeah. Tom Jackson.
Tom Jackson.
I typed in Berman Jackson and got an attorney from Baltimore.
Jacked up. Jacked up. The NFL used to celebrate people getting killed. And it was a huge part of like the way you grew up. It was like, you go across the middle, man.
Right. Well, you brought this on yourself.
Yeah.
Or like, why did your quarterback kill you like that, man? That was messed up.
It's like you learn in like Pee Wee football. Like, hey, man, it's a violent game.
Whoop! It's a violent game. Pee Wee football. All right. So the schedule for the week. God, there's so much we could talk about. The schedule for the week is that we will, with no live show Sunday, no podcast Sunday. Tuesday, we'll feel
if
something
cool
pops,
shit
maybe
happens,
we'll
we could do
appear
some
Monday.
Some videos on YouTube Monday.
Okay. And so we'll be back Tuesday. but we might have some stuff back on Monday. That's the plan. Enjoy the weekend of games. Enjoy Christmas holiday.
Lakers are down like 20 right now to the Spurs. They're so terrible. They're so terrible.
Did you read Sherwood Strauss's breakdown of LeBron's commercials? It's so funny.
I skimmed it. Was he basically just saying that LeBron's obsessed with just sculpting these narratives about his
where he's like, LeBron's got a Ruffles commercial that like makes it feel like he's, healing the world. It's a Ruffles commercial. Like, what are we? And it's bad. Like, it's not even
awful.
Make anybody tear up. It's just terrible. And then in it, he pasted, I'd forgotten this tweet from like 2 years ago where it's like, why is LeBron obsessed with reading the first page of every book? And it was like it was 4 different photos of LeBron reading a book. It was always on the first page.
That was incredible. Every single one.
And I sent it to our buddy AJ, and he's like, wait a second, is LeBron, because LeBron would have his earbuds in while reading the book. He's like, is LeBron listening to a book on tape while reading the book? This guy's unbelievable.
Do you think he faked? When you saw that picture, I had never seen that. Do you think he was faking it the whole time?
Yes, 100% faking it.
Do you think LeBron is just a complete fraud, like with a lot of things? I mean, just not like as like a bad,
but
just very like a politician. Like
I think to start, people are complicated, and public people in particular are, it's like who knows what you're getting. So I think a lot
scary that people just manipulate their being as a public figure. Like, do people live like that?
Scary.
How do you live like that?
Yeah, I mean it's rough, man.
So when the camera's off, you just live a completely different life? I mean, the politicians don't.
No, you live the same. You just do. Yeah, I mean, who knows? You do what rich people do. I don't know.
We just talk like you normally would talk.
I saw Sierra tweeted a photo of her and her 2 kids like asleep on a plane. She's like, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was something like, just the stress of being a mom or something like that. And one of the replies, which I didn't even think anything of it, one of the replies is like, well, it's not exactly the stress of being most moms. You're on a private plane. But anyway, who am I to talk about this?
I don't hold that against her.
No.
I know. The LeBron thing feels like he's smart enough. Like, how crazy, really? When I saw that picture, I'm like, he's been fooling everybody. Because remember, he was asked the question about Malcolm X, and he just couldn't. He didn't have. I didn't
remember that until I watched that video, which was in the thing. I'd forgotten that.
Now, I guess Tiger did it for a long time too, right?
Yeah, I
mean, it was different than LeBron, but
it's I don't know.
Well, the difference
I really don't know. I don't know how to tell that, it's hard.
Well, one thing in the Strauss article was that like LeBron's right-hand guy is now basically like one of the most powerful guys in Nike. So it's like you just basically control the narrative, right? It's like, what do you want to do with the Nike ad? Well, ask LeBron. He'll fucking create it. He's like, well, let's do this. And no one in the room's like, LeBron, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
At least Nike can, Nike's good at that kind of. Nike knows how to do an ad. Oh, by the way, David says, aren't we coming up on the Tiger anniversary? I thought that was Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, Merry Christmas to those of you that celebrate Christmas. If you don't, enjoy the holiday. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy time, whatever it is you're doing. Watch Elf. I don't know.
Do you think holiday, like if you don't celebrate Christmas and you're just, you're a Jewish person, but like you have someone that does, like you're part of another family. But if you don't have the Christmas, do you just approach this like you or I would, like President's Day, where it's like the holiday doesn't mean anything to you, so you just normal weekend?
I'll tell you, for me, anybody's holiday that creates like, things are closed and people are off, I always felt like was my holiday too. Yeah. As a Jew, like I don't know, I like the lights, I like the music, I like the people were happy, the whole thing. People,
like if I went to Israel during Hanukkah, do they shut things down during the day? Would have that feel?
I mean, they shut things down every Friday night for the Sabbath. So
that's true. Well, it's like y'all went to Spain the one time in college. You just want to get a sandwich at lunch. They're all sleeping.
Everything, the siesta.
Like, where the hell is everybody?
Just want a sandwich. Yeah. No, I think I don't know. people enjoying themselves and having a good holiday to me is I'd like to. I'll piggyback on anybody's holiday. I'm all for it. Siesta
Totally
sounds like my kind of holiday.
Me too.
All right, so everybody be safe, enjoy, celebrate responsibly. Send us pictures of your Tito's. NoKidHungry.org/ham. Get in that.
Sure fits pretty well, actually.
It does. It looks like a good quality T-shirt too.
I had 3 boxes of extra Manscapes at my house. I gave one to this guy at the gym that just works there.
You're like, I saw you at the shower, and here you go.
Then I realized when I handed it to him, my name and address was on there when he was walking away. I'm like, he totally knows. I just re-gifted it to him.
What do you think? You bought it for him?
Well, no, I just said, hey, man, I partners with this. If you have a kid or you want it, take it. He was happy.
Yeah.
You can. I mean, I can't use 7 lawnmower 4.0s.
I always need a backup. One in every room. One in every kitchen counter.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good
everybody.
weekend. Merry
Thanks
Christmas.
for hanging. Later.